We recap some of the day's top stories now with our latest headline report.
A 35-year-old mechanic wanted for questioning in the Chicago Tylenol poisoning deaths has been arrested in Los Angeles. Kevin John Masterson is being held without bail on a fugitive warrant. President Reagan says he is dropping the idea of moving up an income tax cut scheduled for next July to the first of the year. House Democrats are inviting a new veto battle with the White House, saying they'll try to attach a $5 billion jobs bill to a government funding measure that must be passed to keep the government running past mid-December. The Commerce Department says it goofed today when it reported that its index of leading economic indicators was up 0.6% in October. It now says the increase was much less. And 5 parcel bombs were sent to British leaders today, and one of them went off in the official London residence of Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, injuring an aide. The Prime Minister was not harmed. With the headlines, I'm Ralph Stein.
Now let's take a time out to catch up on all the sports. Here's our sports team with the latest.
I've been handy for CNN Sports. The American League strikeout king of last season, Floyd Bannister, the most sought-after free agent in the American League, has been reportedly offered a 6-year, $6.3 million contract by Atlanta Braves owner Ted Turner. The contract is said to be the most lucrative Turner has offered any player. Bannister last season posted 209 strikeouts with the Seattle Mariners. Meanwhile, Ed Garvey, head of the National Football League Players Association, and Jack Donlin, who heads up the NFL Management Council, met today to iron out disagreements on the tentative contract that ended the 57-day NFL strike. The Players Association's Board of Representatives are expected to be polled by telephone this evening to determine its recommendation prior to the league's vote scheduled for Friday. Turning to college football, for the 4th consecutive week, the UPI Board of Coaches have given Georgia the nod as the top-ranked team in the country. The Bulldogs, led by Heisman Trophy candidate Herschel Walker, are the only major college football team in the country with an unblemished record at 11-0. Penn State holds down the number 2 slot. The Nittany Lions go up against Georgia New Year's Day in the Sugar Bowl, where the national championship will be at stake. Nebraska is rated 3rd, followed by Southern Methodist, then UCLA, Arkansas 6th, Pittsburgh, West Virginia, Washington, and Texas round out the top 10. In other college football news, Tulane head coach Vince Gibson's dramatic upset victory last Saturday over nationally ranked LSU apparently wasn't enough to keep his job. Gibson resigned as Tulane's head coach today after athletic officials refused to extend his contract. In boxing news, Mike Weaver, the WBA heavyweight champion, will defend his title next Friday in Las Vegas against Michael Dokes. Dokes, undefeated with 25 victories, is ranked the #1 contender by both the WBA and the WBC. The former heavyweight #1 contender, Jerry Cooney, will return to the ring for the first time since his loss last June to the WBC heavyweight champ Larry Holmes. Cooney will fight a 4-round exhibition bout December 14th in Pasadena, Texas. His opponent has not been announced. And that's the latest. I'm Ben Handy, CNN Sports.
Checking the national weather forecast. Tomorrow will bring snow from Utah through northern Montana. Rain will spread over the Pacific Northwest. Showers will be scattered from North Dakota through the Ohio Valley and the mid-Atlantic states. The rest of the nation should have mostly sunny skies. Highs tomorrow will be in the 30s from Utah up through northern Idaho and the northern plains. The mercury will rise into the 70s over the southeast, with temperatures breaking 80 along the Gulf Coast.
Hello, I'm Bob McNeil. In the headlines, the talks continue in earnest in an attempt to avoid a Boston hotel worker strike set for midnight. The Massachusetts House says yes to a measure that would do away with the blue laws. Police in Los Angeles have arrested a man sought in connection with the Tylenol poisoning deaths. William Osceola, on the stand today in the Kelly extortion retrial, continued to talk about lying during previous testimony. This is CNN Headline News.
Hello, I'm Rick Brown.
And I'm Chuck Roberts. At the top of the news this hour, a man wanted for questioning in the 7 Tylenol poisoning deaths in Chicago is in the Los Angeles police custody now after surrendering to the FBI yesterday. Illinois attorneys say Kevin Masterson probably is not the Tylenol killer, but had made statements linking himself to the poisonings and will be asked to take a lie detector test.
The Boston Globe reports that Senator Edward Kennedy is expected to announce that he will not run for president in 1984. In a story for its Wednesday editions, the Globe reports that Kennedy will make the announcement at a news conference in Washington tomorrow.
President Reagan is in Brazil tonight on the first stop of a 4-nation Latin American tour. The president vowed to help the actual and potential victims of Soviet-abetted and Cuban-inspired attacks in that region. After his visit to Brazil, Reagan will go on to Colombia and Central America.
Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill today, Democrats complained that President Reagan's job-creating highway repair bill will not do enough to ease unemployment. They are fashioning their own jobs package. CNN's Carol Week has more on their proposal.
Democratic leaders in the House say the gas tax highway bill won't do enough to bring down unemployment or stimulate the economy, which they say is in a depression. House Speaker Tip O'Neill has unveiled an additional $5 billion Public Works, Housing and Jobs bill, which will be tacked on to the continuing resolution, a stopgap money bill, which must be passed by December 17th to keep the government running. Although the final details are still being worked out, the program is expected to include many of the items Democrats have been pushing for all year. More money for low and moderate income housing, public works projects, as well as emergency jobs and job training for young people. Supporters of the measure say it would put more than 200,000 people back to work. House Republican leader Bob Michael says the Democratic plan is a bad idea in any session.
Obviously, we're going to put all our eggs on the basket of the Drew Lewis proposal because we think that one is the sound approach, and the other one is, on the Democratic side, an add-on is simply another add-on as they've been given to doing over the last several years without the resources to pay for it, and frankly, we're not prepared to go that route.
House Speaker Tip O'Neill says he expects the Republican-controlled Senate to meet the Democrats halfway. But even if the House and Senate can compromise on a bill which supporters admit will add to the deficit, indications are that President Reagan will veto it, and that would set up a confrontation which could shut down the federal government. Carol Week, CNN, Capitol Hill.
Divers have quit searching for the bodies of two technicians feared to be at the bottom of an MX missile cell in Tullahoma, Tennessee. The 250-foot deep cell was flooded with water Saturday after MX fuel was ignited, causing a flash fire. 4 workers died in that fire. 2 bodies have been recovered so far. Officials say they will try to find the other 2 after pumping the water out of the cell.
The newest space shuttle, the as-yet untested Challenger, was moved to its launch pad at Cape Canaveral today. The Challenger will undergo last-stage testing for its maiden flight scheduled for the 24th of January. That 2-day flight will carry 4 astronauts and a tracking satellite. It will be the 6th mission in the shuttle series. Columbia, which made the first 5 flights, is undergoing extensive maintenance.
A British cameraman was shot Sunday by unknown snipers in Lebanon. Tom Brown has more on that story.
Cameraman Kenneth Jobson from England and his soundman Vladimir Popov have been covering the violence in Lebanon since before the Israeli invasion. They were filming the aftermath of a landmine explosion in which an Israeli vehicle was destroyed when they came under fire. It's thought their attackers were Phalangist militiamen who seemed to be shooting to kill. A bullet caught Jobson in the neck. He went down and his camera with him. A call from Jobson and Popov that they were journalists went unheeded by the men with the guns. Luckily, it was only a flesh wound. Jobson righted his camera and left it running while he and Popov tried to find a way of escape. At last, the shooting stopped, and the 2 men carefully made their getaway. Jobson was in hospital for a day and is now resting. He's considered a lucky man. If the bullet had hit at a slightly different angle, it would probably have killed him. This is Tom Brown reporting.
A gunman in Pittsburgh killed 2 women today in a hail of gunfire at a car dealership and then took his own life. Authorities identified the gunman as 26-year-old Robert Thomas of Pittsburgh.
This is CNN Headline News.
A Canadian professor has been charged with espionage by British authorities. Hugh Hambleton was accused today of passing highly secret NATO documents to the Soviets. Hambleton worked in NATO's Paris headquarters 5 years. CNN's Richard Blystone has more on the story.
The prosecution said that while working for NATO more than 20 years ago, Hambleton, a joint Canadian-British citizen, took home and photographed thousands of pages of documents. And many that he turned over to the Soviet Union were classified top secret cosmic. Secrets that could cause exceptionally grave damage if betrayed. Hambleton got his orders in Morse code over a medium-wave radio every Friday evening, the prosecutor said. And the Russians asked for specific NATO documents by their serial numbers. Hambleton has denied 2 spying charges. The trial has now gone into closed session while the prosecution outlines alleged damage to NATO security. For those who feared the secrets of what Britain learned the hard way in the Falklands War had been passed to the Soviet Union, there was perhaps some comfort. Philip Aldridge, a 20-year